Now, the next thing that I want to address, CC, I had an experience on Saturday. I traveled out of Guyana on Saturday. And, you know, these people are not learning. These people are not learning. And these people, and especially extended squatter, who is the chief immigration officer. You know, I have said the chief immigration officer is the commissioner of police, whoever that person is the chief immigration officer in Guyana. The man who is in charge of the immigration office is a deputy chief immigration officer. So when the law speaks to the chief immigration officer, they're referring to the commissioner of police, in this case, the extended squatter. Now, I booked to travel out and I arrived at the airport. Given the problems with the traffic on the East Bank and all of that, I always seek to leave early so I can get to the airport in sufficient time. So I got to the airport, checked in with the airline. Having checked the airline, the next check is to, you go to the security people here to check your suitcase. And I always wrap my suitcase. So I had the suitcase wrapped, passed through the system. They indicated to me that everything was okay. I then went to the desk. There's a desk there before you enter the immigration. They check your boarding pass to see everything is okay there. When I went into the immigration office, the immigration area, I filled out my ED form. I presented it to an immigration officer. There weren't any, I was the only body in the place. I presented it, and quickly he went through, he checked, he stamped it, and everything. I went through security. You know, you have to take off your belt, take out your computers from your carry-on and all. I did all of that. Took off my shoes, took off my belt, and everything was good. So I sat down in the bench there now, putting on my shoe and fixing myself together. And the immigration officer approached me. I don't know his rank. He was dressed in the jacket. He hadn't on the regular uniform with insignia indicating his rank. He came to me and then he asked me if I had permission to leave the country. So I asked him, why would I need permission to leave the country? And he said something. He said that, you know, something in the system. There is something in his system, and he wanted to know. So I said, look, I told him what the court, the order of the court is. Justice Navendra Singh, in December of last year, ruled that the immigration or the police have no authority to stop anyone from leaving the country unless there's an order from the court. But he's telling me that there's something in the system. But let me say this, folks. Let me say this. He was so professional in his approach that he disarmed me, because my initial reaction was to, well, more or less give you a rough time. But he was so professional, he disarmed me. And I said to him, I said, look, I have permission from the court to travel out of Guyana since 2021. I said, all the while, I'll show you the permission. I had it on my computer. He stayed there. I opened my computer. It took me some time. Eventually, I found the document, and I showed it to him. He read it. I said, do you want me to provide you with a copy? He said, no, that you were satisfied with what he saw. So I said, okay. And he thanked me, and he went. Very, very professional, very, very courteous. So I went through, and about 10 minutes later, while I'm upstairs in the, where they have the bars and so on, the same officer approached me again, and he told me that he would like to have the reference from the document I had showed him. So I told him to hold on. He waited, and then I went into the computer again. I pulled up the document, and he was able to copy the reference number, the name of the judge, the date the order was issued, and all of that. So I said, you still don't want a copy? He said, no, this is sufficient. And then he left. He did indicate something about his superiors and other type of things. So in other words, he was given these instructions, and he was dutifully carrying out his instruction. But the point I want to make, that, again, the court ruled, and I'm going to read some parts of what the court said. Justice Justice Singh, Navendra Singh. And let me read this thing to you for you to understand what is going on. Supreme Court Judge, and this is since December last year, Supreme Court Judge Navendra Singh has ruled that the Guyana Police Force does not have the authority to blacklist persons from leaving the jurisdiction. This landmark ruling stemmed from the constitutional challenge filed at the High Court by Police Finance Officer Woman Superintendent Acting Marceline Washington, who is currently before the court on conspiracy charges for allegedly defrauding the state by falsifying 5.1 million in food vouchers. The charges were indictable. She was represented by Dexter Todd and Associates in the challenge filed against the Attorney General, the Minister of Home Affairs, and the Commissioner of Police. Washington sought a declaration that our deprivation of the freedom of movement by the Guyana Police Force breached our constitutional rights. Additionally, she sought an administrative order of mandamus directed to the Commissioner of Police, compelling him to remove our name from the blacklist at all ports of exit. She added that the inclusion of our name on such a list is capricious, vexatious, malicious, abuse of power, unconstitutional, unlawful, ultra-virus, and in excess of its jurisdiction. She explained that she was charged in June 2021 and no court order was made to restrict her from leaving the jurisdiction since she did not pose a flight risk. However, she later received a letter from the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs through the Office of the Commissioner indicating that since she was criminally charged, she is now blacklisted from traveling beyond the borders of Guyana. Justice Singh, in his ruling, found that the Guyana Police Force cannot restrict the movement of any person around or out of Guyana unless such restriction is provided for in the laws of Guyana or pursuant to an order of the court. In fact, he added that since the filing of these proceedings, the Bail Act of 2022 was passed and assented to, and the provisions therein, particularly Section 11, are most instructive. Section 11 makes it clear that conditions, including conditions restricting a bailed person's ability to travel, may be imposed by a court, by the court granting bail. So basically what happens here, unless the court prevents you from leaving the country if you're charged, no immigration officer, the chief immigration officer, the minister of affairs, or the permanent secretary, they cannot. And one would have thought that having regards to the fiasco with David Patterson not so long ago, where they stopped him from leaving because, again, something on the system, and they apologized and they said all kind of thing, and they're now sued in that matter. They would have corrected the system, but it would appear, given my experience on Saturday, that they still have this system there where persons who are charged remain and are basically blacklisted from leaving the country in total defiance of the court order. And I must say that I remember the Attorney General appealed this order from the judge. Well, let me remember how the system works. An order is made. There is no stay. The Attorney General appeals, so the order is effective until such time that it is overturned by a higher court. So to turn up there on Saturday and to hear people telling me that my name is in a system and I have to show an order to travel. As I said, the circumstances under which I was leaving caused me to, well, more or less cooperate. Had it not been for those circumstances, I would not have given them anything. I would not have shown them anything and let them stop me from traveling in defiance of the order from the court. As I said, this is not a real place. I was charged in 2021, May 2021. I appeared in court in October. And knowing how the system can be vindictive, I approached, through my lawyer, we approached the High Court for permission to leave the jurisdiction. The Chief Justice ordered that case. The Attorney General appeared in person. Just understand this. When I made an application to leave Guyana, because I had contractual obligations, the Attorney General himself appeared and opposed the granting of by the court of permission for me to travel. He appeared in person. Arguments went on, and the court eventually ruled in my favor. I had to produce surety. I had to make all other commitments. I was given a specific time to return. I traveled because I was going on duty. As the court ordered, I produced transport and all of that, and I returned as the court ordered. I had to leave a second time, again to fulfill my contractual obligations. I had to approach the court again And this time it was Justice Singh. In the first occasion, it was the Chief Justice. The second time, it was Justice Singh. And again, the Attorney General Chambers objected. Listen to this carefully, folks. I returned to Guyana in 2021 voluntarily to answer a charge. I then applied for permission to leave. The Attorney General objected. The court granted me permission to leave. I left and I returned as directed by the court. I had to make a second application to leave. Again, the Attorney General objected. The AG Chambers objected to my leaving the country. Again, the matter was argued. The judge ruled in my favor, allowed me to go and come back by a certain time. I left and I came back as ordered by the court. I had to leave a third time. I had to go to the court a third time. And when I went there the third time, again, I was granted. On this occasion, the third occasion, the Attorney General's chambers, in the form of the Solicitor General who was present, did not object. So I was granted permission to leave. And it was basically open-ended permission that I have. But since then, the court ruled that you don't need permission to leave. Unless, let's put it this way. When you're put on bail, the court can say that what the restrictions are, that you should not leave the jurisdiction. If you're charged indictably with any serious matter and the police feel that you should not be allowed to leave, they have to make an application to the court. They have to approach the court, and the court has to grant that permission for you not to leave. And I'm saying, as I've said before, the only list they should have at the airport, the only list they should have at the airport is a list of persons who the court says should not leave the country. The court should make that decision. But here it is. No court has said that I shouldn't leave. As a matter of fact, to the contrary, the court, I have an order from the court which permits me to leave, and the police telling me that I got to produce that order, the immigration people. So that is what it was. And I'm saying again that these things can happen because when your rights are violated and you go to the court, they got a slap on the wrist. We made the point with the lawyer who was arrested for advising her client to remain silent. And what happened? She got damages in the sum of 700,000 Guyana dollars, cost, I think, into some amount. And that's it, basically. The ranks who commit these violations are not held accountable. In the case of the lawyer Clark, the man has been promoted. Ramana, Christian Dat Ramana, has been promoted. So these things are going to continue to happen in this state. The Attorney General likes to speak about the rule of law, but you can't speak about the rule of law when courts are making decisions and they are being flouted. They are being openly violated. And that was my experience. I'm not speaking secondhand. This is not hearsay. This is what I experienced myself on Saturday, the 2nd of December 2023. Let me bring you Mr. Conway. CC, I did tell you of the experience. What are your comments, my brother?
Well, the thing is that the extended squatter, by now after Justice Singh and me passing order, he should have called in or written have an order, SOP, to the immigration people, saying, hey, you cannot prevent the person from leaving unless there is a court order. Or in addition to that, you know, he has got to make sure that this person, the deputy chief immigration officer, is aware of that, and you can't flout the court order. It happened with Patterson, and the thing is that we need to be very careful in what we do. They had years ago they had an issue where Clarence Chu, who was the controller of customs, he had a court matter, and his lawyer, I remember Rex McKay, said, hey, let me test the system. And because they knew fully well that the court didn't pass any order for him to prevent him from leaving. And he bought a ticket to go to Trinidad. He didn't intend to go anywhere. And when he turned up there, they stopped him. And he sued the state and he got some money. But then maybe I could try it, but I never tried them. I guess $700,000, which is chicken feed money, So maybe it's not worth it. But the thing is that they need to put systems in place, and all those persons who are on stop lists, who are on those computers, they need to delete them. take off the names from the thing who they have there, unless it's a court order. And it's simple. Sometimes the court will say you have to lodge your passport. Well, if you lodge your passport, you can't go anywhere unless you go backtrack. So that's the whole idea, that they need to be very clear. And I say in the courts, the amount that the court would give you, is not really worth it at times.
Yeah, I agree. And you made a very important point that from the time Justice Singh made that order, December last year, December 2022, they extended Squatter, who is the Chief Immigration Officer, should have had an SOP. He should have had a SOP prepared. And the ranks at immigration should have been instructed accordingly to say that now that this order is passed, notwithstanding the fact that the Attorney General has appealed, there is no stay. So you should not be asking anyone to produce any document other than their passport to leave the country, because that is a violation of the order made by the court. One would have thought it had to be taken up at that level. But as I've said, the fact that this rank can tell me that something in the system, remember there's the same thing they said about Patterson, they told Patterson, something in the system that he should not, travel. And they told me that, he told me that on Saturday. And again, I said, the rank was very, very courteous and very, very professional in his approach. And that is what disarmed me. Because people who know me know that I like a war, I like a confrontation. And I would have said to him plainly, based on what I know of the law, that I have nothing to produce. But he came so professional, he was so courteous, almost apologetic. And he said, well, he's superiors and all of that. So I decided to show him the order that I got. Because every time I travel, I always have it. Because I anticipate that these people are likely to do any manner of thing. And somebody said, yes, they have my name there, profiling you, so you can't travel. They have it there.